Refashioning is about taking old, unwanted pieces of clothing and giving them a new life. It's about pulling those shirts from the back of your closet that you never wear, or those $5 dresses hanging on the thrift store rack, and transforming them with a pair of scissors, a sewing machine, and an open mind. My name is Callie, and I'm on a mission to create the ultimate upcycled wardrobe, one project at a time. Hey guys! Today we're going to be working on this white eyelet shift dress, and while it's fine by itself, it's just a little boring to me, so I decided to turn it into a cute, flirty, bell sleeve baby doll top for summer. Okay, so the first thing I always do with my refashions is try on the garment and start marking things, marking where I'm just mapping out where I want things to go. So here I'm putting a pin in the front where I think the baby doll part should start, and then I'm doing kind of a high-low with the baby doll, so it's going to be higher in the front and lower in the back. Once I have those pinned, I'm going to put my dress down on the ground and just start cutting out that shape. I'm just eyeballing it, but I looked at lots of things on Pinterest to kind of get an idea for the shape I wanted. Again, doing the higher in the front and lower in the back. And once I've got that all cut off, I'm going to put this top part, my yoke, onto my dress form. And then I'm taking the remainder of that dress that I just cut off, and I'm pinning it to my dress form so that the bottom of that dress falls at the length I want my top to be. And then I'm just cutting out the bottom portion. So I'm using that top yoke, the shape of it, and kind of cutting out that bottom piece to match the shape of the top, if that makes sense. Okay, next I'm going to set my sewing machine to the longest stitch length of 4. And I'm going to start doing a basting stitch around the whole top of that bottom part of my shirt. So that part I just cut out using my dress form, I'm going to do a basting stitch around the whole top of that piece. Now that I have that basting stitch done, I'm going to go ahead and start gathering that bottom section. So I'm just creating a slight ruffle, nothing too crazy, nothing too full. With my eyelet being as stiff as it is, I didn't want to make the ruffle too full because then the shirt would have just stuck out. If you have a more drapey fabric, you can do a ruffle that's more gathered, a more tight ruffle. Once I have that all evened out, I'm going to take that to my dress form again, and I'm putting that bottom portion on the dress form, laying the right way, top to bottom, and I am just tucking that ruffle over, so folding over the top part of that raw edge, and then pinning it to the bottom of my yoke. All the way around, front to back, making sure my ruffle is fairly even. And an easier way to do this is to make sure you pin the front center and the back center, and then the sides, and then that helps just get everything even and lined up correctly. So again, I'm just tucking that raw edge, folding it over, and pinning that to the top part of my blouse. Then just look it over and make sure it's all even, give it a spin, and once you're satisfied with how it's laying, I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and just do a top stitch across that whole blouse, front to back, all the way around, just getting that ruffle bottom fully secured to the top. And don't forget to set your machine back to a smaller stitch length for this. Okay, next thing is we're going to work on adding the sleeves. Now you'll see me using this like chevron fabric pattern piece right here. And one little tip I have for you guys is anytime I make a sleeve, I make a pattern piece and throw it in my sleeve bucket. I have like a whole bucket or drawer just of sleeve pattern pieces so that when I'm doing a refashion I can just pull out different pieces, try and match them up and see which one works for that particular garment. So anyway, I'm just cutting out my 2 sleeve pieces, just making sure they're fairly even, want to make sure they're the same size or else they'll look weird. And now I'm just going to pin that sleeve around my armhole. So you're just pinning right sides together, start at the point of the shoulder, and you're pinning that rounded curve of the sleeve all the way around the armhole until those pieces meet at the armpit. And once you get to the armpit, we're going to pin the bottom of the sleeve together. You'll see me doing that right here. I'm pinning that bottom piece together, and we're going to sew along that portion first, and then sew the sleeve around the armhole. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create the little bell bottom for the sleeves. So I ran out of eyelet fabric, I didn't have enough, and I realized that this dress originally had lining. So I took the lining and I decided to make the bell sleeve out of that. So anyway, I cut out a couple of strips. I did mine about 6 inches wide, and the length I did was 1.5 times the circumference of my arm, or the sleeve opening. So once I have my 2 strips, I'm going to go back to my machine and set it back to the longest length for another basting stitch, and just baste along the top of each of those strips for the bell sleeve. And then you know the drill, we're going to just pull on those threads and start gathering the fabric, start bunching it up and creating that ruffle for the bell sleeve. And we'll just keep doing this until we get it to the right circumference to match up with the sleeve opening, and just making sure that that ruffle is totally even throughout. And once I had that ruffle all done, I just went ahead and closed the loop. So I just sewed the 2 ends of that bell together to make a circle. And before I attached the bell sleeve, I tried on my shirt and I just marked where I wanted the bell to start, where I wanted to chop my sleeves and add that bell. And I kind of lined that up with where the bottom of the shirt attached to the yoke. So I just kind of went straight out from that point and made a mark with just a pin. Then I threw my shirt on the ground again and just cut off the sleeves using that pin I just marked. Okay, now I've got my shirt back on my dress form, and I'm going to repeat that same process I did with the bottom of the shirt, now with the bell of the sleeve. So just pinning it around the sleeve at the front, back, and sides, and then attaching it in between. And again, I'm just folding over the raw edge and tucking that under, and then pinning it to the edge of the sleeve. And once that's all pinned, we're going to go back to the sewing machine, make sure we go back to a shorter stitch length, and then we're going to just top stitch that all the way around the sleeve. And after that, we are all done. So let's go ahead and take a look at the final transformation.